Okay, so interior starts with the rudder pedals, which were cut out. There's two pieces of paper sandwiched together. They cut very well. And then the actual pedals are bent up at 90 degrees. And then you're going to glue them around that little black hole, that little black dot there. So I'll put a little bit of glue on there and just setting these down. Later we're going to put little control wires on those for the rudder pedals, just to make it a little more interesting. You'll never see them, but they look cool. Here's my seat. It's a doubled piece of paper, two of them cut out. It's on the plan. Roll it, get it to the right shape, glue it to the seat bottom, which I'm doing there. And you got to hold it in there a little bit. But again, the secret with all these silly models is to bend the paper until basically it fits. I learned that from a Polish modeler's YouTube channel. He just shows really nice techniques. And he shows that what you got to do is make sure everything fits just right. His stuff fits unbelievably well before he even adds glue. But anyway, so there's the seat, looking good, dry. And then my issue was how the heck this went in. This is the seat, sort of, yeah, my hand's going, what the? I have no idea how these are supposed to go. I can see there's a place there to actually put that in terms of shape. But I don't know what those silver parts are for, those parts that stick out. And I don't know what the double backing is for. So after a long while of playing around, I finally figured it out. Actually only from looking on the Wingnut Wings site, and I saw their Pfalz plans, and I kind of figured it out. But then we'll come back to that in a couple minutes. Here I'm putting the front former on, which is that guy. And that just fits really nicely. What's cool is the paper, that's the color, I cut that off on the bottom so I get a nice wood joint, and it makes a little tiny lip, and it makes it so you just engage that and hold it. And actually, it's a kind of an accidental way, but it makes it kind of nice. Take off the paper, and then you've got a ridge, and then your bulkheads and your floor fits together real nice. Make sure it's square. This is probably overkill. You could just use your Mark I eyeball, but just to make sure. Put the front bulkhead in, same way. The bottom of the paper was cut off a little bit, and you just slide that on with some super glue. Make sure it's even, touch it for a second, and it's on. Again, make sure that it's vertical. That's the back bulkhead. I think I said them backwards. Anyway, now again, the question is, the seat goes right here. I mean, you can see where the seat is supposed to go. It's supposed to fit right there where the fellow would sit, but I don't know how to do that yet. So now inside this goes an interior piece of paper, and you see it's really neatly rendered, even though my camera's in the wrong place. But that is going to go inside of a skin that goes on the outside, and that gives you your interior, a nice look to your interior. And here I'm just kind of testing it to see if it'll fit over these things, and if the formers, and if they'll line up, and those are the holes for the machine guns. Are they going to work? And yes, they will. Now here's the control stick. It's supposed to put that with the little grips on and stick it in there, but that's a flat piece of paper, and it just is way too thin, and to me it just doesn't look right. So I'm discarding that. I end up using a piece of wire. But now this bad boy, still trying to figure out how on earth this goes together, and I do not know. Now, after a long while, you can see I started to fold it, and I think I figured it out. If you fold it and glue it together back to front there, you'll see how it starts to come together. The weird part is those vertical silver pieces around the wooden part, those actually go up. They don't go down. You'd think they'd be like, some kind of seat legs, but they're not. They're part of the structure of the internal part of the fuselage. And that's what they're approximating anyway. So I figured this out, and it seemed to work, but boy, it was really hard to decide what you're supposed to do. So you'll see how this gets generated. You put that down and glue it in place. Make sure it's square and tight, and make sure that it's not overlapping in a weird way. Let it dry, and then keep on folding, and that's going to be basically the floor. But you see what happens is, if that's the floor, I can fold that piece up make a vertical spot there, and then fold this other flap over, and it has those two little tongues on the end. So I put some little bit of glue on those tongues, and then I put some glue on where it bends just to make sure it's strong. I don't know if that's necessary, but just to be sure. Put that over, hook those little hooks on to the other side, and then squeeze them in there and glue them. I use tweezers to yeah, there we go. I use tweezers to kind of squish them. And now you've got this little semi-rectangular thing that part is not white. That's actually silver. And the seat fits on top of that, and then you've got those underneath parts that look like, you know, holes where things emanate in and are real dark in there. You're never going to see them anyway, but this is how this thing actually ends up going, and then you just glue it on. But man alive, it was hard to figure out how to put that thing in. It took a lot of head scratching, more than my brain could handle. But I think it's correct, because when you put this down, that fits where it's supposed to, fits inside the little dotted lines, and there it is. And it kind of deformed, but I just make sure it's kind of straight. It's got a little back slant the way I did it, and I think that's okay, because usually these seats weren't rigid upright. They kind of had a slant on them. Now I'm coloring parts of it with my silver Sharpie, just in case something shows through and you can see things. I don't think it really happened. It ended up being okay, but just making sure, if in doubt, I'll color everything. So now put a little glue on the seat bottom, and then just line it up and plop it on those supports. And now what you end up with is a pretty handsome little basic interior, with your seat, your rudder pedals, and then your stick will go on in a little bit. Here's my stick again. That's the paper one, but that's a piece of garbage, so throw it away. The little grip is fine, and then I just took a piece of piano wire and cut it to size, and I'm going to drill a little hole in the middle of that little gray circle, and then just glue that piece right in with some super glue, making sure that, in my case, I put it down a little bit forward, because I want to have a tiny bit. I want to have the elevators droop down a little bit. All the pictures I see, they seem to droop. Now I'm put a little glue on the tip and add my little grips. These little grips were unique. Well, no, not unique, but they were only on several World War I airplanes I've seen. Pfalz is one of them. I think Hanover was another. Anyway, there's the basic interior. It looks nice. Now, under here, the reason I knew this was right is there are two places there underneath that I think are supposed to be eyelets for control cables. So I'm pointing with the knife tip where the control cables go for the rudder. From there, they go under the seat, and then they attach to the rudder pedals themselves. So a couple little pieces of easy line dipped into some super glue, plop it in where it's supposed to go. Just by looking at pictures of the real thing, I could tell approximately where they're supposed to go. Put one on that side, put one on the other side, let them dry for a few seconds, and then you tug and pull them and put them at the other end, on the other end, where they're going to go under those little eyelets under the seat. It's just a little detail that looks nice when it's done. So putting a little dot of super glue there, and then I take my tweezers and I grab this little thing, and I just push it and hold it. And when you hold those in place, they dry.